We also had the readout of the minutes from the last Fed meeting where the central bank raised rates by 25 basis points. Yahoo Finance's Jen Schonberger has a closer look at that. Hey, Jen.
Hey there, Shauna. No sign of a pause in Fed officials' discussions last policy meeting. Instead, officials appear to remain steadfast in their commitment to raising rates and bringing down inflation, which they still see as, quote, unacceptably high. Quote, from the minutes, all participants continue to anticipate that ongoing increases in the target range for the federal funds rate would be appropriate. Participants observed that a restrictive policy stance would need to be maintained until the incoming data provided confidence that inflation was on a sustained downward path to 2%, which would likely take some time. Now, while Fed officials welcomed the drop in inflation over the last quarter of the year, they said they still need substantially more evidence to feel comfortable inflation is coming down sustainably. The minutes, which are released with a 3-week lag and thus a bit stale here, came before the jump in Treasury yields, which showed a number of Fed officials were concerned at the time that financial conditions had eased and could require more rate hikes than thought. Quote, a number of participants observed that financial conditions had eased in recent months, which some noted could necessitate a tighter stance of monetary policy. Participants noted that it was important that overall financial conditions be consistent with the degree of policy restraint that the committee is putting in place in order to bring inflation back to that 2% goal. Now, the minutes also showed that a few participants favored a 50 basis point rate hike instead of the 25 basis points to try to get to that peak rate on the Fed funds rate as fast as possible, and thus a more restrictive stance. Of course, last week we learned who those Fed officials were, both Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester and St. Louis Fed President James Bullard. Now, officials see risks to the economy to the downside, noting that it really wouldn't take much to tip the economy into recession. Participants warned that any lengthy negotiations over raising the debt ceiling would pose, quote, significant risks to the broader financial system and the economy. Guys?
All right, Jen, thanks so much. And given all that, we saw the Dow only off 109 points, NASDAQ back in positive territory. It's hard to wrap your head around the exact moves of the markets here following the latest data that we're getting here from the Fed.